Okay, I think we're good. Okay, good morning, folks. I should say good afternoon and good evening, depending on where you're at. But this is Dave, W8FGU. I am currently Elecraft's classic line technician, taking care of all things that were prior to the K3. And so today we're just going to kind of discuss what that entails and what we still continue to service. There are a number of products that no longer are available from Elecraft in the classic line, but the K2, the main Flagstaff transceiver that they started the company with, is still available as a kit, and many are still being sold today. And I have a whole basement floor full of K2s that I'm continuing to service as we go through this thing. So just a little bit of background from my perspective. I started out, my grandfather got me into ham radio when I was a young kid in the 60s and 70s, and he was the original W8FGU. Later on in the 2000s, when I decided to finally get my ticket, I was able to get his call through the vanity system. So I get asked that question quite often in the booth in Dayton as to why I would ever pick a call that W8FGU in it, but that's the reason I did it. So it was like kind of get his call back on here. I started out as a technician in my early days, going to school for it, got an associate's degree in electrical engineering, and then worked in the audio field for a while, and then as luck would have it, I just kind of landed into the PC environment of programming. So that gave me about a 20-year career in the IT field. Then I did a 180 and went into the fire service for the last 20 years, and I'm about to retire. And hopefully this job will continue. And I love working on these rigs, and they're great radios to service, and great company to work for. And happy to be here, and I'm glad that we're able to at least do something virtually here, as opposed to being in Dayton, where I usually meet the Elecraft crew, and we work the weekend down there. But you know, this is the best we're going to do in the coronavirus period, apparently. So, all right, I'm gonna just kind of a low tech thing here. All I got is one camera, and it's on a laptop. So I'm gonna sort of fade over to my bench here, and we'll kind of talk about the products that we're servicing and going with here. So you can see, I also have my sidekick Vic. He's back at the Elecraft facility. That he's going to be looking for your questions and pushing them off to me. So, all right. So let's kind of go with where we're at. These are basically the classic line products that we still service. The only one that we produce is the K2, which is on the bottom here. So I'll start at the top. This is the KX1. I currently still continue to service. This is a CW only, small trail friendly type rig. Basically, this was the precursor to the KX2 and KX3 that you see today. It actually was kind of the precursor to the K3 because they used some technology, small SMD parts and things like that in this particular kit. You can do 2 to 4 bands with this particular transceiver, and again, it's all CW. You know, no sideband, no digital modes or anything like that. Then the next one is the K1. This little beauty is again a CW only transceiver. It also does 2 to 4 bands, and I still see quite a few of these that come across the bench over time. And contrary to popular belief, even though it's called the K1, it actually was introduced after the K2 was produced. The K2 was the first transceiver that Elecraft had produced globally, and then the K1 came out after that. This is, you know, Wayne's one of the owners, Wayne. His designs were always small QRP radios prior to Elecraft getting into the transceiver business. And so this was kind of his little baby, probably the first radio kind of going toward doing the trail friendly or, you know, portable type operation. And that's, and shortly after that, that's where the KX1 came in. Then with the K2 introduction, they came out with a set of transverters. There's 4 different bands that the transverters supported. This is the XV50, so that's a 50 megahertz transverter. They also came out with a 144 2-meter, 220, and the 432 UHF transverter. Again, none of these are being sold today. You know, parts have become obsolete, and they just could no longer put them out there. But we still have many units in the field, and still get to service those guys. And so I do get a number of these that come into the shop from time to time. So I didn't want to spend too much on the stuff that's obsolete, but just to let you know that we do still service this kind of equipment, and we'll continue as long as, I guess, as long as I'm still around. We'll do that. All right, and then this is the flagship product, K2. This is still a kit that's produced today, and we still sell them. I probably talk to new builders at least on a weekly basis. I've had questions from all over the country and all over the world of guys that are buying brand new kits and getting started. There's been a number of changes over the years. This is a 20-year-old design, and it's done very well. And it's still, I just looked up in the Sherwood list for receivers, and I believe it's number 48. So it's pretty significant when you consider that it's over a 20-year-old design and still plugging along. I own a K3 myself, as well as a KX3, and love both those rigs, but the K2 still is a sweet sounding radio, kind of still has that analog feel to it, and it's you know, just a great rig, and a lot of things that you can put into it. So we're pretty happy to continue to service that as well as sell it as a kit and get new builders motivated to get into it. Basically, the K2 is an 80 through 10 meter rig as a basic kit, which excludes 60 meters. There are modules that you can buy to increase that. There is a 160 meter module that can be applied to this, as well as there's a 60 meter and transverter module. Unfortunately, at this point, there's been a problem with a couple of parts that we cannot source any longer for that K60XV module for 60 meters and a transverter. But I'm kind of working on a side project, seeing if we can get something going with that. And hopefully in the near future, we may be able to try and produce a few of those that we can still sell. So with all of those put in, so basically you have 160 through 10 meters on this kit. And it does have a single 5-pole crystal filter for CW. The sideband module comes with a 7-pole filter. There are 4 filter settings for each, so you can narrow the filters as you go down and as you operate. And again, it's kind of it's a great kit in that, you know, you're building a through-hole kit with through-hole parts, and in the performance is still equal to, you know, and better than many of the commercially available units that are sold out there and under the same specs. So can't beat this type of kit. It's a real fun assembly, very fun to put together. It can be frustrating at times for some of the builders I have to talk with from time to time, but if you just take your time and go through it and enjoy that process of building and soldering your own equipment, there's a huge sense of internal pride after you get it done and it's working and everything's aligned and calibrated, and you're moving forward into using it as an operational transfer. So this is my personal K2. I built this in 2005, and I've added on just about every module that could possibly fit in it, and actually added a few things that were third-party things. The basic K2 itself, without the 100-watt amp, does not come with a keyer output for an amplifier. So I resurrected a couple of designs out there from Tom Hammond and Don Wilhelm to bring a keying output for the basic K2 so that you can key an amplifier. And that's installed in this one, as well as a fixed audio output, which simplifies the digital mode setup. So this particular K2 can handle everything from CW, sideband, and all the digital modes, and does it quite well. About 10 minutes to let it warm up, and it's it's pretty dead on as far as frequency and accuracy and that kind of thing. Truly enjoyed my K2. So anyway, this is my personal one. I do have my lab one here that we use for testing. So I have this opened up, so I thought I'd be able to show you kind of what the K2 is comprised of. As you can see, basically the design that Wayne and Eric started with was they wanted to kind of come up with a kit that represented what it would be like to build your own PC. So if you have any experience in assembling your own PCs, the K2 is very similar. Of course, after you get done soldering all the parts and stuff, assembling it is done in a pure modular way. So the RF board is basically like a motherboard. So everything plugs into the RF board, and so this is the main RF deck right here. Inside that, then the two other main boards that plug into it, as far as the basic part of it, are the control board, which is right here, and this is basically the brains of the K2. It has the main microprocessor in it. I'll actually be able to pull this out for you. It has the main microprocessor right here that is basically the brains of the whole outfit and runs everything. So Wayne's firmware is what dictates all the tuning and the interaction between all the different modules and how they communicate and all that stuff. It happens through this particular control board. This is one of the first boards you build during that process. This is the front panel board. So this is basically what's hiding behind everything here that you see in the controls. So all the switches, knobs, and the VFO knob and all that stuff. That is what happens here with the control board. There's a configuration header here for if you're going to use sideband, so you can configure the mic, the microphone connector for whatever type of microphone that you want to use with the K2. Also in this unit, we have the KSB2 module, and that is the sideband module. It allows you to use the microphone and sideband. And also with this is the K60XV module, which is the transverter and 60-meter module here. Again, this currently is not in production as we're trying to find suitable capacitors, trimmer capacitors for this thing, but it does work. In this particular one, you can see this got sent to me. So they brought out a keying line here for an amplifier that's brought out to the rear panel right here. So again, this total modular design. There are a number of other modules that can fit inside of a K2 to bring other functionality. The great thing about all Elecraft products is that they are modular in nature. You do not have to buy everything up front. You can buy the basic kit and slowly add things as you go along. It's nicer on your wallet to be able to do that kind of thing. And there's nothing that's reliant on anything else. You don't have to buy, if you buy a certain module, it doesn't depend on having another module installed. So whatever functionality you want to do, whatever area of the ham radio that you like to get into, you can purchase at will and add them as desired, which is again a great design. And not only the design is great at being modular, but again the specs when they first released this thing were through the roof. The receiver front end is still one of the best around. Of course, this doesn't have all the blocking filters and things like the higher end K3 and K4 that's going to be introduced soon. But it's still a really good rig. The filtering is, I believe the filtering is still very adequate for my needs. I'm a very I don't get to operate very often. I'm way too busy at this point until I retire. But it's still a great radio. There was, and unfortunately, DSP module that's available for the K2, but unfortunately, that's no longer in production. I have that particular module in my K2, and it's a really nice module to have, and does help out with some good filtering and blocking out unwanted signals and that kind of thing. So they're out there on the open market. You'll see it every once in a while on our reflector or email reflector, and on the various auction sites. People will be selling some of the modules that are no longer available in production, but you can still get them. So, but that's kind of what the K2 is all about. Again, very good modular design. Even without soldering experience, you may be able to to get into this, and a lot of new builders do. And so we encourage that. It's a great way to get into ham radio and get stuff going. With that said, Elecraft also produces a number of small, what we call mini modules. And these are basically test modules that they came up with to help support building and testing their rigs. And so in this case, here's a small, this is a small dummy load. And every ham shack should have a dummy load. This is fairly accurate. It's a good module to kind of get your teeth into as far as getting something built. So if you'd like to get into building and have no experience, this is a great way to kind of start into it. You're going to need some of this equipment anyway to help out with building a K2. So if you don't want to get into the K2 immediately and worry about ruining something, try getting into one of these small kits first, and that way you can get some practice. We have a number of tutorials that are on our website that are always available for learning how to solder, and of course I'm always available as well for any questions and getting into it. But as you can see, there's just a handful of solder connections on the bottom of this board. The mini modules actually they come with basically with just this board. I actually make these enclosures to put around them, because the mini modules didn't come with enclosures, and I got tired of dropping screwdrivers and coffee and stuff on mine, so I finally built some enclosures to go around it, and it actually kind of turned into a little cottage internet business for me. So that's how I got into this. So again, if you're looking to get some building experience, this is a very good way, very low cost. Just get into it. You can kind of get your hands wet with this thing, and then when you decide to get into the K2, you'll have enough confidence built up that you'll be able to get into it. So so here, one of the modules. This is again a dummy load that's here. Here's a Ballon that they produce that I've used this a number of times with my K2 for multi-band antennas out in my yard doing portable work. This is an audio filter, the AF1, that actually this I remember when the K2 first came out, a number of users were complaining that they thought some of the audio sounded a little bit harsh. So they designed this AF1 audio filter, and it actually kind of rolled off some of the high end of the audio and made it sound a little bit warmer at the time. And so this was highly used for quite a number of years. And this is their W1 watt meter. This, I believe, goes up to 150 watts or so. Great QRP watt meter. LED status is here. It shows you power. And then you have the SWR meter reading right here. Again, unfortunately, it didn't come with a case, and that's why I wound up putting it in one. So this way you can take it out into the field and not worry about damaging it and that kind of thing. So again, these are very nice modules if you really want to try to get into the building aspect before you touch anything that's a little bit more convoluted like the K2. I would say probably the K2. Anywhere from 40 to 80 hours. That's what's going to take you to build a basic K2. Each module comes in its own packaging. Most of those, you probably get a module built in an hour or so, or maybe two. And then there's some testing involved after you install it. But again, because of its modular design, it's very easy to put new modules into existing K2, and again, relieving you of having to buy everything up front. So, Well, I think that's about it. That's about all I have to say about the basic part of it. I think we just get similar to doing the booth work. I'd just rather get into answering some of your questions. You can see
Yeah,
this
we
is
do.
kind of. Oh, I'm sorry. This is kind of some of my test setup here, and I do have. This is the keying envelope for this K2. So that's a dit and a die that came out of this thing that I recorded last night, and you can see how nice and rounded the edges are, so that it doesn't produce any clicks and stuff. And that's one of the things that Elecraft has been known for, and the that they don't produce clicks, and it's a very good sounding CW machine. So, okay, let me turn this back around and get my ugly mug on here again.
Okay, Dave, we do have one question. Doug Snyder is asking, he has a KX1 that he built, and he's wondering what common repairs there are for the KX1. And he's also asking the same question about the K2.
Okay. Common, well, it's interesting. I guess most of the common repairs that I see in the KX1 are probably blown finals after some use, or maybe it takes a static discharge hit. Kind of the same with the K2. I get those in here from time to time. Most of the stuff that we get, it can be failures in pretty much any part of it. But some misuse is typically what happens out there, is that we get I get some static stuff that happens, or a short, and so there's been a number of repairs for those. I do see a good number of KX1s that come through here, as well as K1s. So they're always out there, and people are still using them, and they love those little rigs, and that's a great trail friendly, fun radio to take with you. So. But I guess as far as common, I don't see, I don't, nothing's really ringing the bell here as far as anything totally common. It pretty much runs the gamut. We got anything else there, Vic?
We just had a question come up of where do I order an MP1 from? That would be from the Elecraft website, Don.
I'm sorry, Vic, that thing, it just cut out on me. So can you hit me with that again? An MP1 for what?
He wanted to know where to order it.
I'm not familiar with the MP1. What is that?
He's an MP1 watt meter. I think he means the watt meter.
Oh, the yeah,
the W1.
Yeah, W1. Yeah. You can certainly, that's available on our website. It's under the mini module area. And you'll see there's a number of products that they list there, but the W1 will be there too. I don't really remember what the prices are right off the top of my head, but that's a really nice kit to get your teeth into to start building. So I certainly encourage that. I think it's not only is it a good watt meter and it's accurate, but it's great for field use as well.
Okay, and Don AA6W wanted to say hello to you.
Okay, yep, I know Don. Know Don very well. Yep, we've been. I just did a K2 for him, and it actually turned out very well. It was a very early number, or early serial number K2 that we were able to get sounding exactly like they come off the line today. And that is one thing I guess we should highlight in our service to the Elecraft Classic line, is that right now what I'm finding is that we're seeing a number of K2s that are now being bought at estate sales and auction sites and such. And there were many revs and mods that were applied to the K2 early on, probably in the first couple of years. Basically, if you find a serial number past 3000, it will have a great majority. It'll have the new rev, and it'll have most of the mods that are in line today. But anything prior to that, if the owner had not applied any mods, that's where I've been seeing quite a few of those. I've been doing a lot of Rev A to Rev B upgrades, and I can tell you, it's crazy when you replace some of the crystals with the newer ones they have, and do some of those modifications. You can really hear a difference between the early versions of the K2 and what they sound like afterward, and they are pretty sweet. I'm always amazed. I listen to them when I first get them here, power them on, and listen to them, and then after I get done with the upgrade, then comparing that, it's quite a leap. So if anybody's looking to do that, or if you wind up purchasing a K2 third hand, I'm always available for doing those types of upgrades, and it's nice to bring an older serial model and get it up to spec for today. And that's, again, another tribute to Wayne and Eric's design and their methodology. They always made sure, no matter what, that even if you bought one of their first test units, you would always be able to upgrade and bring that K2 back to what is currently being pushed out on the line. And there's not a lot of companies that'll do that. They'll make you buy a new radio before that you can do this. So upgrading is a really good way to go, and you can, like I said, you take a brand new, a very, very early serial number, and it'll sound just as equal to, and if not better than what's coming off the line today. So, anything else we got there, Vic?
We have a question of whether the audio pot is available. He has a older K2 with a scratchy AF pot, and
yes,
yes, the pot's available. Yeah.
Yes, the pots are available, certainly, but there's also a mod for that. It's called an AF gain smoothness mod, and that's available on our website. And actually, I'll give everybody right now my email address to get a hold of me directly. If you want to talk about classic line stuff and K2, I encourage you to email me directly as opposed to going to our support group. I'm not physically located in Elecraft. I'm located just south of Detroit, Michigan. So all of our support emails go to our support group out there at Elecraft in Watsonville, but then it takes a little bit of time for them to go through it and weed through the emails, and then eventually they'll get to me. But if you want to get to me directly, my email address is dave@elecraft.com. And so if you just email me with any questions, I'll take care of that for you. And for this question about the AF gain pot, there is a mod for that. Basically what they did is they balanced the load on the pot. There's a couple of trace cuts and some rewiring between the RF board and the front panel board, but it'll get rid of that staticky sound. You will want to replace that pot for sure, but do the mod at the same time, and it will not reoccur after that. Anything else there, Vic?
Let's see. We're getting a lot of. Let's see. Thank you so much, Dave. My K2 works great. That's from. Oh, that's AA6W.
Okay. Yep. That one came out pretty nicely for him. I'm glad Don is enjoying that.
Let's see. I think we've got a hello from N4TMM Ewing.
Okay. And hello back.
And we have N4T Mike TMM is asking if there's anybody that will wind toroids. I don't know whether there's anybody still winding toroids or not.
Yeah, I still order from Michael. If you go on our website, there is a link to Michael. And to this day, even when I'm doing these upgrades and stuff, it's one of the things I require from some of our customers is to get the pre-wound ones. That way I don't spend all my time, winding toroids. Michael does a great job, still does. And I believe he's in Pennsylvania. Again, it's on our website under some of the builder resources for the K2. And he's still in production. He's still doing them. And they're all packaged separately with labeled. I mean, he does a very, very nice job with that. And, if you don't want to wind toroids, a lot of people find it fairly tedious. He's an excellent resource for doing that kind of thing.
Let's see. We have GM0HVS asking if we recommend any software for aligning K2 filters.
Spectrogram is still the the recommended, and that's what I use here. If you go to Don Wilhelm's website, W3FPR, Don was the previous tech. I took over for Don about 1.5 years ago after he retired. And Don still does support on the email reflector and stuff. And he is the ultimate in classic line and even the current product line. Don knows Elecraft products very well. He's got a link there for Spectrogram. I think there's an older version he's got linked there, and then he's got a newer version that runs under Win 10, which is what I'm running here. It is a Windows app, so unfortunately, I'm not sure if there's one available for the Mac side of things. But for Windows, it's called Spectrogram, and basically you just take the output, the audio output from the speaker jack in the back of the K2, and you put it into your sound card, and it gives you a nice spectrum, and you can set markers. So if you have your CW side tone set for, say, 600 hertz, which is our default, you can set a line in Spectrogram that's marked at 600 hertz, and you can, through CalFill, you can just pull that filter right in line with and center it right at your side tone. We also do it for the sideband module as well. We pick the 2.4 kilohertz wide one, and we center that thing between 300 hertz and about 2,500 hertz or so, and then the narrow ones as well. The RIDI filters, which we use for digital modes in the K2, and but we do recommend using the RIDI filters for that, because you can turn the compression off on that particular set of filters, and it operates exactly like the sideband filters, but at least when you go to use digital modes, that way you don't have to remember to turn compression off and things like that when you go to operate. So we center those guys at 1,000 hertz, and it works. Spectrogram's a really good tool to do that, to visually align those. It takes all the guesswork out of doing it. So again, it's w3fpr.com. If you go to his website, you can find it. And if you can't, let me know. Just drop me a note at dave@elecraft.com, and I'll get you set up with however, wherever we can get the links to download it and get you set up. There's also some documentation that was put out by the late great Tom Hammond, N0SS, Silent Key now. Tom was a great Elecraft advocate, and he came up with a number of tips and techniques for the K2 over the years. He's got a very good document about how to use Spectrogram and how to set it up and use it along those lines to align your K2.
Okay, we have one question asking if the Cat 100 will be available again, and I can answer that. Probably not, because we can't get all the parts.
Right, yeah.
This is an ongoing problem.
Yes. Well, unfortunately, with any design that's going to be 20 years old, and especially with through-hole parts, there are going to be some changes and obsolescence. Unfortunately, yeah, the Cat 100 is going to be one of those that is probably not going to be able to come back, just because there's certain parts that Elecraft cannot source anymore. We even have that inside the K2 itself. There are a number of parts that have changed over the years. There's a couple of chips that are no longer available as through-hole parts, and they are now SMD parts that are mounted on small daughter boards that take up the same space as the through-hole part. It is somewhat cumbersome to have to put these little daughter boards onto the K2, but it is certainly feasible and can be done. I know there's a number of guys that have had some issues with them, but we normally get through it after a couple of practice rounds of playing around with those things. So again, this is going to be what's going to happen over time. It's a 20-year-old design for all of this equipment, and over the years, parts are going to become an issue. But right now, I know, talking with Eric for the last couple of years, I know they've sourced a number of parts for the K2, and there should be K2 kits for years to come, as long as things kind of hold out. So we'll see what brings into the future. But right now, the K2 is good to go. But yeah, the Cat 100 is going to be one of those guys I don't think is going to be able to come back anymore.
Okay, Don AA6W is asking or suggesting you discuss external power supply lithium batteries and using an internal battery with the K2.
Okay, yeah, Don and I had this conversation. The K2 does come with an internal battery option. It was an SLA battery. Vic, do we sell? We don't sell those anymore. Is that correct?
You know what? I don't know. It's
Okay.
very likely we don't.
Yeah, I don't know if that battery's available anymore. My philosophy has always been, I told Don this, is that I was always leery about putting a battery inside of my rig. You know, there's things that can happen. Now SLAs are pretty, pretty okay, but when you start getting into some of the lithium ion technologies, some of those they can get a little fragile, and there's everybody's heard the stories about cell phones burning in pockets and things like that. So I typically don't like putting batteries in my gear, but that said, I like running off a battery when I'm portable, and typically I have to run more than one thing. So having an external battery that simply plugs in as a power source is where I've gone. And it, the little bit more expensive options right now are the uh, lithium iron phosphate batteries. They're 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 pretty nice. They have a pretty good flat curve as far as usability. They'll only die right off at the end of their charging cycle, and uh, they're lightweight, and they do very well. And I run a KX3 and my PX3 and actually my laptop and stuff with one of those types of batteries. And so yeah, I've kind of gotten away from putting batteries inside of radios just because of I just don't want anything bad to happen to my radio. One of the now the KX3 in our product line, they would take I think those were nickel cadmium batteries that you could charge inside the KX3, and I don't even do that. But I know with the KX2 they went with lithium ion batteries, and you are not allowed to charge those batteries inside the KX2. It has to be removed, and that's one of the reasons why is they were afraid of something bad happening during the charge cycle, and you just don't want to ruin a whole rig by doing that. So I believe Don was going to go the same route. He was buying an external battery and to run portable and run all of his equipment at the same time. So my philosophy doesn't mean it's right. You can do whatever you want. Putting a battery, the batteries still work fine inside the rig, and it's just a little bit of a risk if you're gonna try and charge them in there. But I just prefer not to.
Well, we've gone through everybody's questions. If anybody has more questions, you can type them in. Yeah, that was just an answer from Dave that, yeah, he uses a 6 amp hour battery. Two, I would also mention the KX2 battery. I use them external to KX3s. I've used them to power up a K2 on the test bench. They're really a convenient just a power supply.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I still have one around here somewhere, and I don't use it, but yeah, and that thing weighed a ton. That's a good battery, but yeah, the lithium technologies are much lighter now, which is kind of nice, and especially for the backpacking crew. Now, I'm not saying maybe most guys wouldn't take a K2 for backpacking, and we have alternatives now for smaller radios, but backpacking and that kind of thing, yeah, lightweight is all the rage. So yeah, with the newer technologies and batteries, the lighter weight stuff is definitely an advantage. Excuse me.
Okay, we have a guy asking, let's see, that's Jim Ewing, N4T Mike. He has a K2 kit asking where to go for the most current documentation. That would be the Elecraft website.
Absolutely.
Support manuals down to the legacy products, and there are all the addendums and everything any updates we put there immediately.
Right. Yeah. So yes, the latest manuals are always going to be in our manual area. They're all downloadable PDFs. The errata that goes along with that too, which is very important because there's many changes, especially to the K2. Like I mentioned, it's a 20-year-old design. There's been a number of changes over the years that you're going to want to incorporate and make sure that they're in there. So yeah, you can always find all documentation for all Elecraft products are always listed under our manual section on the website. And for the classic line stuff, they actually call it that, classic line, and you can get to them. And even the older obsolete products like the K1 and KX1, all the manuals and everything are still up there. You can download them at will.
And let's see, Chuck Harrington is asking, he just built a Cat 100 and is asking, what parts in a Cat 100 do I have to worry about replacing if it fails?
Yeah, that's probably a good question. I believe it's some of the relays, isn't it, Vic? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I would, the relays, unless you run too much power through it and burn up an inductor or do something a really strange SWR that causes an inductor to heat up and burn.
Right. I would think that replacing the coils and capacitors are it's still feasible, but I believe he's asking what parts may go away. I think it's the relays, isn't it, that are no longer available?
I'm not sure what became unavailable on
Okay.
that. It's probably the relays.
That's what I'm thinking. That those are bigger, heavier relays, and I know even the relays for the K2. We've run into some issues there, but I think that's more COVID related than it was obsolescence of the part. But just kind of keep an eye on. I would, if you stay away from nasty loads on that Cat 100, it should last you forever. I mean, they designed that thing to pretty much be a tank as far as dealing with abstract loads. So I don't think it should be too much of an issue there. I hope.
Okay. Let's see. Any possibility of legacy firmware update to address some issues like maintaining selected mode? Very unlikely that anybody's gonna work on the K2 software there. Yeah.
Well, I think
all our software guys are doing K4 stuff.
They are, and
actually speaking.
Actually, one of my last conversations with Wayne about firmware for the K2 was that I did find a bug a number of months ago, and I tried to discuss it with Wayne, and he said that he does not even have a compiler anymore that will compile that code, even if he could find it. So unfortunately, the firmware where it's at is where it's going to stay. I don't believe that anything's going to be able to replace it, and so yeah, that's kind of an issue with a 20-year-old design that it's pretty much stuck where it's at. I don't believe there's going to be any updates to help fix anything that's out there. It's interesting. I wonder what is the problem with the mode. I'd be interested to find out what you're getting at there.
Yeah, not too sure what he was getting at. It wasn't a problem I was familiar with either.
Okay.
Let's see. We've got Fred KC9QQ is thanking Don for his excellent troubleshooting skills with his K2.
You can't beat that. Don's the guy.
Don is really good, yes.
Yep.
Unfortunately, he's had some health problems and hasn't been able to continue keeping up doing the repairs.
Yeah, I'm probably at least in contact with Don a couple of times a week. He's a great guy. He's actually doing pretty well. He had some handshaking issues that fortunately turned out not to be Parkinson's, and that's one of the reasons he was going to retire. And so through some medications, they've been kind of able to help him out pretty well there. But he's happily retired. He's still on the email reflector constantly, and he's helping guys troubleshoot up there all the time and get things done. And yeah, he's a wealth of information, that's for sure. And not to mention a great guy. He's just an all around good guy.
And someone said we should mention the T1 auto tuner. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I don't have one here to show, but yeah, the T1 auto tuner is that's a legacy product that's been out there for a number of years. Very, very good for portable operation and can be used with any rig. It's not an Elecraft specific tuner. In fact, I believe they had a set of cables for an FT something. I can't remember which radio it was, but yeah, it's a great all around QRP tuner, and that's I have yet to see one come across here. I think the guys that have them, they take really good care of them, and they're still very much in operation and used all over the place, especially for QRP and portable operations.
Okay, let's see. Fred KD8ZYD says he's almost finished with his K2 build. Dave has been invaluable helping me, especially with the capacitors and identifying the right one needed. That's a big problem because the capacitors change every time we do a new build of the kits. We fight to get the variable capacitors. The leaded little trimmer caps are becoming totally impossible to get.
Right. Yeah. And not to mention, I know that's pretty much a great majority of the questions that I field as far as the K2 build is, I know a lot of the capacitors, especially the little blue ones with gray printing on them, are so difficult to read. You got to have magnifying lenses and stuff to be able to read these things. And again, this is because, through whole parts over the years now have become automated. Typically, many of these parts are on reels and are put in by machine. So no human has to really read them. And the markings are only on there for, future reference and troubleshooting and things like that. So yeah, to build with the K2, that can be kind of a tedious function, is to go through those capacitors and try and sort them out into the proper ranges and things like that. But again, that's what I'm here for. We'll get you through that. Vic and I constantly we talk, kind of on a monthly basis about certain parts and what's changing and that kind of thing. And so we'll keep up with that as best we can. A lot of the changes in some of the parts, it's just simply not that big of a change in order to put it in the errata to get to specify what has changed. And so it does cause a little bit of confusion sometimes with amongst builders. But again, we're the resource. Just call us and email us, and we'll get you the straight answer. And I do that constantly. I've got a good friend that lives a couple hours north of me. He's been building his K2 on weekends, and just about every weekend we discuss capacitor values and markings and things like that, and to make sure that he's putting the right one in the right spot.
Okay, Don, let's see, AA6W is asking if the watt meter is sold with the plastic enclosure. And no, it's not, but nope. Dave can help you out there.
Yeah, I'm the guy that builds those. So yeah, my website is W8FGU.com. And if you go there, you will see my enclosure line for the mini modules, as well as I do sell a couple of cards. I think I mentioned earlier, there is a keying circuit for amplifier for the K2. It's a small board that gets mounted in the back of the RF board. So that's sold as a kit there, or of course I'll assemble it for you for a fee. And then there's also a fixed audio board that Don Wilhelm designed that brings a fixed level audio output to a port on the back of the K2, which is really nice for using the K2 for digital modes. That way you don't have to worry about volume levels with the K2, and you can still monitor your the receive and transmission with the K2 via the speaker and independently of the volume control. So those boards are available up there as a kit. I put all the parts, everything kitted together. All you do is buy it, put it together, and then install it into your K2. And it comes with full instructions on how to do all that kind of stuff. And those are nice add-ons, especially for the QRP version of the K2. But again, W8FGU.com. That's where you're going to find my enclosure line and the boards for the K2.
And Robert Brown, who had the question about updating the firmware, came back with the mode problem is that you can't store a separate mode in each of the VFOs. He uses a setting, yeah.
Right. Yes. Yeah, that's
proper
true.
sideband doesn't get selected.
Right. Yep, that's true. And I know with some of the digital mode software, it's kind of that way as well. You have to set up the mode prior to running the software, otherwise it will not select it. So yeah, I think that's it's just evolution of firmware. The newer products that Elecraft sells, everything is stored per mode, per band, per VFO and stuff now. And it's just again how it evolved. And unfortunately, yeah, in the K2, that's not going to be the case. Now I know there are some software packages out there that they'll remember that kind of stuff, and then when you use them with the K2 again, it'll set everything back up to where it's supposed to be. But that's done with that software, not the firmware itself. So yeah, unfortunately, Robert, I don't think that that's going to be an option at all. I like I said, talking to Wayne, he basically said he doesn't have a compiler for it, that code any longer, and I can attest to that. I did a lot of coding in my day, and I know there's a number of projects I worked on early in my career that there's no way in the world that you'd ever be able to get them running again. So unfortunately, it's just a sign of age, I guess.
Well, we don't have any more questions. If anybody wants to shoot one in here, we'd certainly be glad to answer. We're going to run out of time probably in another 7 minutes or so.
Yeah, we're getting up on the hour here. So if if nobody else has got anything else going on, we can call it a day, I guess. I'll be back on tomorrow at the same time, kind of going over the same thing. So if anybody's got any questions they want to bring up, we can do this again tomorrow as well. Again, my email address is dave@elecraft.com. So if anybody wants to do something offline, obviously shoot me an email and I'll get right back to you, and we'll get you taken care of. Again, a great service from Elecraft has always been their service department. They support their products to the end. And even though a lot of the classic line products are no longer sold, they are still supported, and we do have people around. And fortunately, even with guys like Don Wilhelm are still around. Even if I get baffled with something, Don's only a phone call and an email away, and we'll get to the bottom of it, and we'll try and get things worked out for you. No issues at all.
And we should remind everybody to check out the show specials. There are some really good deals in there. I was just looking at them.
If you go to our website, and elecraft.com, there are a number of show specials related to this expo, and they've asked us to mention that, and so we are, and there's a lot of good deals up there. You're going to see.
I'm looking at the $8 discount on a T-shirt here.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about doing a virtual expo like this is, basically when we're in the booth, it's always about hats and T-shirts. That's what everybody wants. So so now you can go to the website and get discounts on those as well, and those are always a big seller while we're in the booths at the different trade shows. So.
There's a $5 discount on the AF1 audio filter for anybody. Don or Dave was holding that up earlier. I'm just looking through them here to see if there's any of the legacy. I don't see any other legacy modules here.
Yeah, but what Vic's talking about is this AF1 audio filter that I showed you before that kind of was designed to go with the K2, but basically it worked with anything. So it's got, you know, input, output audio, and then a number of little pass band filters and high pass filter, low pass filters and stuff like that that are applied there. So if you got something that sounds a little bit harsh, a lot of high end, you can roll that off pretty easily, you know, with this kind of thing. And again, a really, really, really nice little project to get your teeth into building. These are, you know, there's not a whole lot of parts. You can see some of the soldering in the back of it. So it's not very complex at all. And it's a really great way to get your hands involved in soldering and building and stuff. And again, if anybody has any questions about that whatsoever, don't hesitate to contact me, because we've got a couple of good tutorials about soldering up there. There's a number of YouTube videos out there, I know, that that highlight soldering and getting into it, and the type of equipment you want. And you know, if you decide to get into trying to do something with a K2, which is the only kit that we continue to sell with through-hole parts, you're going to want a good temperature-controlled soldering iron, and those are readily available on open markets all over the place. And for me, I have a very nice desoldering tool as well, which is always good if you make mistakes and have to be able to pull parts back out. Although they're rather expensive, they can get, you know, $200-300 for some of the cheaper ones. But you can still, there's small mechanical vacuum bulbs that can be used, and solder wick, which will wick up solder off of a pad, and that way you can remove parts and things like that. So all that stuff is still you know, available on the commercial market. And again, those are tools you're going to want to get involved with to do any sort of building with. And after you have them, you'll be very glad that you do.
Okay, we got one last question asking what your current workload is, and then we better get out of here so the next guys can get set up.
Yeah, I'm probably about 2 to 3 weeks in a backlog. I've probably got about a dozen rigs out here right now. Unfortunately, I wound up having shoulder surgery. I'm kind of an off-duty firefighter at this point. I had shoulder surgery done in May, so I had to go through a lot of PT and healing and stuff. And now I'm actually starting to make a pretty decent headway on getting that backlog taken care of. So I would think by the end of the month I'll be pretty well caught up, and then back to kind of a normal thing where it would take maybe, you know, a week or so to get your rig in here and get it back out. At this point, like I said, I'm probably backed up, you know, at least a dozen rigs or so, but we're making progress, and we'll get that knocked down as we go along.
Okay, I think that's it. We'll say 73 to everybody. Yep. And duck out of here.
Yep, 73. And please, again, any questions, dave@elecraft.com, even if you can't remember that, just hit our support folks and they'll get something to me, and we'll take care of your classic line and legacy issues, and we'll just go from there. And if nothing else, come back and see us tomorrow. We'll be on at the same time. Everybody take care.